The official proposal that he released this week included the safety protection order idea, but not mandatory or required background checks for gun sales. And those who wanted bigger changes are disappointed in that. State House correspondent Joe Ingles has details.
In the days following the mass shooting in Dayton that killed 11, including the gunman, and injured more than 24, fervor was high as the crowd chanted, "Do something." Governor DeWine said he wanted to do just that, but he said from the beginning that he would need to come up with something that would pass the Republican-dominated state legislature, which has been expanding gun rights for nearly 2 decades. DeWine's 17-point plan includes 2 major elements: a version of a red flag gun seizure law and enhanced background checks. He says his strong Ohio plan will create improved measures to protect the public, will increase private sale background checks, and will decrease gun violence overall.
I believe that every single part of this will save lives. I believe every single part of this will make us safer. And I think that is reason enough for us to do it.
DeWine never promised universal background checks or a strict red flag law, 2 things that activists for gun control have clamored for. Instead of a red flag law, this plan is built on Ohio's pink slip law. This allows for people assessed by mental health experts to be a danger to themselves or others to be admitted to a psychiatric facility for 72 hours. This bill adds substance abuse as a reason for a person to be pink-slipped, along with mental illness. And the bill would specify that people who are involuntarily hospitalized must surrender any weapons they have. The bill also doesn't require universal background checks. It creates a new system allowing a buyer working with a private gun seller to get a certificate showing a clean background check from the local sheriff's office that says they are legally eligible to own a gun. That can be given as assurance to gun sellers who, under this law, could face up to 3 years in prison if they sell a gun to a criminal.
I want to be crystal clear. Everything we are doing places no new restrictions or limitations on a law-abiding citizen to own a gun. These proposals are focused on keeping guns out of the hands of people who, based on current law, are prevented from owning a gun.
Lieutenant Governor John Husted says this package was developed with hundreds of hours of consultation with mental health experts, hospitals, law enforcement, and gun rights groups. For some, this legislation is personal.
I am a gun violence survivor. On September 12, 2018, I walked into a mass shooting at my place of employment in Cincinnati. It takes my breath away nearly every time I think about this. I was shot 12 times, and not once did a bullet hit a major organ or artery. It is inconceivable. Yet here I stand, physically and mentally strong enough to be here to talk to you. So what do you do when you cannot make sense of the gift that you've been given? For me, there has always been only one answer, and that is to fight to ensure that I save as many others from senseless gun violence as possible.
Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley, who dealt with the aftermath of the mass shooting there in August, joined DeWine for the announcement. But like other Democrats, she says DeWine's plan is a good first step. She liked the pink list part of it because it focuses on treatment, but she says one key requirement is absent from the new gun bill.
9 out of 10 Ohioans call for a background check. There's not a background check in this bill. So, I think that is something that the legislatures either they're going to have to decide and the voters are going to come to them with it, and they're going to have to listen to the public. That's what we're drawn to do, we're supposed to do, and when you have that many Ohioans agreeing on something's got to give in that legislature.
And a group that's trying to put a gun reform measure on the ballot next year says this is not enough because the absence of a universal background check is a deal breaker.
If the legislature closed the background check loophole, then we would applaud them and stop our campaign. But we are not confident that will happen. So we're going full steam ahead.
The group thinks it will have the nearly 300,000 valid signatures it needs to put the issue on the ballot before voters next November. The bill, sponsored by Senator Matt Dolan, will start in the Republican-dominated Senate, where it's expected to have an easier path to passage than in the House. Speaker Larry Householder is a strong gun rights supporter. His campaign focused on that issue in TV ads. He's expressed reservations about the gun seizure idea in particular, saying he's concerned about due process rights of gun owners, but also about giving a heads up to those who might be dangerous. And he has potentially a dozen members of his caucus that are unlikely to support any major changes in gun laws. A major group representing gun owners has the same concerns. Dean Reek of the Buckeye Firearms Association says he's pleased to see the bill doesn't have a red flag law, but he still wants more details.
I consider that at least a positive step. Now, what does it actually do? That's what we're going to have to look at. Of course, we have some concerns about background checks. There are a lot of other points in this. It's a 17-point plan, so what about some of these other things? We're going to have to look at it, see what does or doesn't impact Second Amendment rights.
DeWine says this bill, while not perfect, accomplishes three important goals.
1, it must be constitutional. It must respect both the Second Amendment and Ohioans' due process rights. 2, it must make a significant impact on the safety of all Ohioans and save lives. And 3, it must be able to pass in the General Assembly.
Now it's up to lawmakers to decide whether they want to do something with DeWine's bill in the Republican-dominated, gun-friendly Ohio legislature. Joe Ingles, State House News Bureau.